Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Dom Giordano sitting in tonight here on America at Night, and it is a big news night. A lot developed just in the last couple of hours, and nobody, the hottest guy, I don't think he'd like being called a pundit, in punditry out there. Scott Jennings with us in a moment. Scott is also the author of A Revolution of Common Sense, How Donald Trump Stormed Washington and Fought for Western Civilization. Remember that at home. That is critical. Hey, Scott, welcome to America at Night. Thanks for joining us.
Dom, thanks for having me in. It's an honor to be with you, and always great to hear your voice.
Well, Scott, I just saw in the last hour or so, Washington Post breaking news, released documents from the Epstein estate show that he appeared to be texting a member of Congress during a congressional hearing investigating Donald Trump, and that those texts may have influenced the lawmakers' questions. My God. What do you think about that, Scott?
Well, of course, the Democrats have been obsessed with this, for the last few weeks because they think it's going to hurt Donald Trump. And what have we learned? This new bombshell that Epstein was literally programming Democrat members of Congress. And we've also learned that he was being coached over time by a member of the staff of the New York Times. So you have the media colluding with Epstein, and you have Epstein colluding with Democrats in Congress, and this is supposed to hurt Donald Trump. I think this may blow up in their face, Dom.
I think so. Now, I had not one but two Congress people on my show in Philadelphia, Scott. Ryan McKenzie, who I was surprised at his answer, and Jeff Van Drew, who's a friend and a big supporter of the president, both said, I think it's going to be on Tuesday, the hearing on releasing everything, they would vote to release all this. And I completely agree that that's the course of action here. What does Scott Jennings say?
Well, look, I don't have a problem if that's what they decide to do. This has never been at the top of my list of the reasons why I've ever cast a vote for Donald Trump or against anyone else. I will only say this, and the president has said this. When you start releasing the entirety of case files of closed cases, you're just releasing everything out there, and there may be names of people in documents that did nothing wrong, that have had nothing to do with any wrongdoing, but by virtue of their name appearing on a document in a box somewhere, now all of a sudden they're going to be smeared by it, and that opens up a can of worms because the Epstein investigation isn't the only investigation that's ever gone on in the United States of America, and is it going to be our ongoing practice to release every document of everything when that may implicate or smear innocent people? I have had some concern about that. So, I think that's a policy question we have to wrestle with. But if you want transparency on this and everybody wants to see it, that's fine. I just think the Democrats need to be prepared to reap the whirlwind. There's a much larger chance, in my opinion, that Bill Clinton is going to be disgraced out of this over Donald Trump.
I would agree with you on that, though. What's the motivation, though? Do you think the motivation of President Trump now, he's at the heart of your book, A Revolution of Common Sense, along with Elon Musk, so you know him a pretty good bit going through this. Is that why he is so pushing back? I agree with him on Bondi now, investigating Bill Clinton, but what's the motivation here?
Well, I think he sees this as another wild goose chase, another one of these moments where it's like, okay, what can we do here to just simply tie up the Donald Trump presidency? He lived through this in the first term, the Russia hoax, as he calls it, which was a hoax, by the way. He goes through these periods where the opposition finds something and they try to kill him by innuendo. It's death by innuendo. And, there's not a shred of evidence Donald Trump ever did anything wrong regarding Jeffrey Epstein. In fact, there's evidence that he excommunicated him from Mar-a-Lago, and now there's evidence in the files that Epstein hated Donald Trump.
Right.
But you see Democrat after Democrat go on television, and sometimes they imply it, and sometimes they flat out state that Trump had engaged in some unethical or worse kind of behavior, and it's all just in service of tying up his presidency. And I think what frustrates him is when Republicans aid and abet this sort of operation to simply tie up the presidency. I think that's what he senses in this, and that's why he's raging against it.
Tonight, too, the woman out in Seattle is all over the news, the second major socialist. Not as, doesn't get the juices stirring with me quite as much as Mondani, but even worse in some ways, that there's footage, Scott, of her mom helping her with a job application. She didn't know what to do. She was in her late 30s and still paying for the child care. And she does appear to be kind of zombie-like when it comes to her socialism. So is this, I see it ultimately as more of a problem in the midterm for Democrats. How do you see it?
Well, the energy of the Democratic Party is obviously with these socialists, and they'll vote for anybody. I mean, they'll vote for a Mamdani in New York who's clearly anti-Semitic and clearly has no idea how to handle a job this big. They'll vote for one in Seattle who is obviously, somebody who effectively have just been living off their parents while espousing these, brainless views. I mean, I'll be candid with you. When I saw that they had elected a socialist, my first reaction was, oh, aren't they already run by socialists out there?
yeah.
But I guess they've gone all the way now. So good luck, Seattle. I guess we'll see how it works out for you. But I wouldn't expect it to work out very well.
The president this afternoon into tonight too, removing tariffs, the reciprocal tariffs on a wide array of grocery products, and I'm supportive for that. I'm not a tariff guy. Look, I give him grace to make deals, to use leverage on it. But I'm glad we're focusing in on grocery store prices. I was quarterbacking our coverage in Philadelphia, and we cover Jersey, much of Jersey, Scott, when I'm getting calls that Mikey Sherrill has now been elected governor at 8:43 that night. We were expecting a 1 point either way sort of thing. So what do you think of this move now, laser focus on grocery store prices?
Well, it's a strategic pivot, certainly on these items. I mean, I think what they're focusing on are items that we cannot produce in the United States.
Right.
Now, some might argue, well, you should have thought of that in the first place. Okay, point taken. But as is a political, tactical matter, obviously the president understands for the Republican Party to be successful, people have to believe that he is materially getting us on a better trajectory when it comes to the cost of living. And so if he has to make a strategic pivot on this, good for him, so be it. I think the larger conversation is going to be also what to do about these healthcare subsidies. That's got to be solved. And healthcare in general has to be solved. I mean, the two greatest things people are worried about, I think, are food prices, healthcare prices, and throw on energy prices. I mean, those three areas, you have to believe he's put us on a better trajectory. I think he has on energy, but food and healthcare, people still feel like they can't get their nose above water. And I think the president making a strategic pivot here is a good thing. We'll see what other deals or other pivots he wants to make. But obviously, failure to address this concern would be politically problematic for his party in 26.
Take us inside the book. You have Elon Musk and President Trump at the core of it. And the title, every time I have you, I'm intrigued by that he fought for Western civilization, not just the United States. Give us something in the book, Scott, that jumps out at you. And the book's out there right now or soon.
It comes out Tuesday, actually.
Tuesday,
so you can
that's
order
right,
it today.
yeah.
Yep, it comes out Tuesday. I'm excited about it, and I appreciate your mentioning it. Well, look, I spent some time with the president. I did interview quite a few people. And what jumps out at me from all of my conversations and all of my observations is just how ready he was to take office on day one, how ready the team was, the plan they had to hit the ground running. And it's unlike Trump 1.0. I don't think they expected to win the first time around. So it was slow starting, and he was saddled, I think, with a staff and a team that just didn't match his leadership style. In this case, they expected to win. They knew what they wanted to do, and he refuses to shy away from any major fight, whether that's cultural, say on the trans stuff or the DEI stuff, on immigration. He has gone, obviously, all the way as far as you can go on immigration and gone to the courts over it. He is willing to fight it out. There is no hesitation. I think the first time around, he didn't go all the way. You know, there was hesitation, and perhaps you could argue he was being held back, by the Republican Party infrastructure that he inherited. This time around, he's in charge. He got the team that he wanted. And I'll tell you, the two people that I think stand out to me as the all-stars are Marco Rubio and Scott Bessent. They have been smooth operators and smooth communicators, and the president's coalition is extremely happy with both of them.
Couldn't agree more. And compare Marco Rubio to the guy that we had, the oil guy who was Secretary of State. There's a book right there, Scott. When Trump comes into office, that's the Secretary of State.
Well, look, it was an example, Tillerson, you're referencing, of someone who's probably, he's probably a good guy. I don't have anything against him. But when you go to work for the president, you best be ready to execute his agenda.
Right.
And communicate his agenda. And I think he ended up with people in the first term who were, maybe executing their own, or they had disagreements with him and they weren't willing to lay those down in service of his agenda. And he just doesn't have that problem this time. These people are here to execute on his agenda. That's allowed them to move very fast on a lot of issues, and it helps if they can communicate. And Rubio has been at the center of, I think, some of the most successful communications, whether it's been on foreign policy, the stuff in the Middle East, immigration. I mean, Rubio's been part of the whole immigration situation with getting people out of the country, who's here, why are they here, who's in here on these visas. But, Rubio has, I think, earned the trust of virtually everybody in MAGA world, which you wouldn't have thought that. He was probably someone they looked at with a bit of a jaundiced eye before, but he is an absolute rock star to these folks now.
Absolutely, and that will continue to play out. So, Scott, you'll be on the book tour, too, and we're almost set to announce in Philadelphia. We're ready to go to have Scott Jennings there. Where can people find the book tour so that you're coming to their area, they know they can come out?
Well, I'm going to make intermittent announcements on social media.
Okay.
Some of them will be open to the public, some won't. So I'll get it out there. The best way to keep up with me is on X at Scott Jennings KY. I will tell you that Wednesday night I'll be in Midtown Manhattan. This is the 19th. The Manhattan Institute is hosting an event, and if you go on the Manhattan Institute social media, and you're going to be in New York, you can RSVP to that. That's probably, if you're in the New York region, that's a good place to start. And then I'll be in Florida next Saturday morning at the Vero Beach Book Center. That's coming up as well. But I'll try to get these posted to my socials, and if you can make it, I'd love to see you.
Absolutely. On CNN tonight?
Yes, sir. 10 o'clock. We'll be fighting it out over the news of the day.
Absolutely. All right, Scott, thank you. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you in Philadelphia in December.
I love you, Dom. Thanks, brother.
Thanks.
See you later.
Thank you. Scott Jennings here on Talk Radio 1210. Nobody better. Just love talking with him and his success. And don't forget, CBS has come knocking to consider to bring him over there. Could it be in both places? Maybe. All right, Dom Giordano sitting in tonight on America at Night from Talk Radio 1210 in Philadelphia. You reach us at 833-482. 5337 833-482-5337. Get on board. You heard what Jennings thinks of the most recent Epstein matters. Two congressmen, McKenzie and Van Drew, both said, Republicans, on Tuesday on my show in Philadelphia, they would vote for it. I would too. Would you? And we'll talk a little bit of this mayor in Seattle later on. Catholic Church and Tom Homan square off on illegal immigration. All that tonight on America at Night.
It's already November, and it's colder than it usually is. People are making Thanksgiving plans. And let's be honest, there's a lot of great food and great drinks, good for the soul, but not great for your liver, right? And this time of year, our livers are definitely putting in overtime, many of us. And if you're feeling a little bloated or just sluggish or just a little off, it could be your body telling you that it's time to give your liver a little bit of love. That's where Active Liver from New Nordic comes in. It helps keep things balanced. Active Liver is powered by natural ingredients like milk thistle, globe artichoke extract, and turmeric. All of these things have been shown by studies to help keep your liver in tip-top shape. And don't forget the gummies. They taste amazing. They really do. It's like mango apricot flavor. It's fantastic. I have a whole bottle. And I want you to be able to enjoy the food and festivities as much as I am, and do it all thanks to Active Liver. Now, you can find New Nordic's Active Liver online at Amazon or Vitacost.com or iHerb.com, or you could find it in stores like CVS, Meijer Grocery, or ShopRite. And remember, these statements and products have not been evaluated by the FDA because they're liver gummies. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or condition, but they do taste great.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Hey, that's right. Dom Giordano from Philadelphia sitting in tonight on America at Night. We talked to Scott Jennings about a number of things. President Trump, I think this is just in the last half hour or so, on Truth Social, pulling his support from Marjorie Taylor Greene and indicating there might be a primary there. Now, I interviewed Marjorie Taylor Greene when her book was out, and I was expecting the worst, and I have to say she was pretty good. And on this, I think she still has the president's interest at heart. And I think if I were voting there, and I'm asking you, two congressmen, both of whom I respect, particularly Jeff Van Drew's a big ally of the president, said on Tuesday when this comes up, he will vote to release the emails, release the full package that's out there, whether a judge will agree and how this will work, what the Senate will do. I'm just focused in right now, though, on what they should do. I don't think that's being disloyal at all. You heard Scott's perspective on it. We differ a little bit on that. Also, I want to play you the new mayor of Seattle. Coming up, I'll play it. The new mayor of Seattle talking with Erin Burnett, who is on CNN trying to run interference for her about getting child care, about her mom and dad still paying for her child care, and she's going to be the mayor of a major American city. Apparently, she didn't have a job until she was in her late 30s of any sort. And there's footage of her filling out a job application and not understanding it with the mom. So this is a dangerous trend. It's in New York and Seattle. Blue, 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 of course. Helps us, at least if you're a conservative, the way I see it during the midterms, Mondani is one of the most celebrated people in the world, and they're going to be asked about him constantly. And he's not going to be able to get his nonsense done in New York, in that the governor is already in opposition. That's not going to happen because she sees what the tax, she's up for election against Elise Stefanik, and the polling indicates it's a pretty neck-and-neck race. So all in all, this is shocking, and part of it that I wanted to talk about, given my background in education, is what are kids being taught in school? Well, one of the things is that socialism is like a new thing. Wow! Why didn't we think about this before? As opposed to every 7, 8, 5 years, people find some kind of angle. And Mondani is pretty articulate. He's somebody who ran a very good campaign. And what they do is they make it like this is a new idea, just tax the rich and everything will be okay. Are you going to be able to do that? People are fleeing New York. They're fleeing the schools as we speak. So I'll play you coming up the new mayor of Seattle reacting with Erin Burnett. And this woman is not as strident as Mondani. She's more of a zombie. All right, Dom Giordano sitting in America at Night on Westwood One.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
It's with Dom Giordano tonight on America at Night, sitting in. Follow me on Twitter at DomShow1210 out of Philadelphia. Here is the new mayor. And again, I don't find her as strident, but she's more of a zombie socialist. And by the way, socialism is not just rising cost. This is the woman that said, don't think you're going to have a supermarket chain here and just close it when you want. We're not going to allow that. What, are you going to keep people working inside the supermarket? So she's on with Aaron Burnett on CNN, who's running interference for her, but she asked the 43-year-old socialist Seattle mayor-elect Katie Wilson about the mom and dad paying still for the child care for her and her husband and the kids. Here's how it sounded.
I want to ask you one other thing, because you sit here as a mayor-elect. You're in your early 40s. You've accomplished so much at such a young age. And in that context, you have been open about the fact that you have done that with your parents' help, that your parents who live across the country have sent you checks to help pay for your toddler's childcare, right? That with all the things that you've accomplished, when it comes to affordability, that you still needed that. Now, Fox News and the New York Post have framed that in a negative light. They have said, Mayor-elect, that you are, quote unquote, living off your parents' money. I'm curious how you see it, because this is something you've been very open about. Do you think that people in Seattle see this as a negative or as a positive that people can relate to?
Well, I'll say that my opponent's campaign and the corporate PAC that tried to stop my election certainly cast it as a negative thing. But, you know, campaigning for office is stressful. Seattle's one of the most expensive cities in the country. Our childcare is off the charts expensive. And honestly, I think that a lot of people of my generation and younger and older found it very relatable that during this stressful campaign, you know, my parents chipped in to help to pay for the cost of their granddaughter's daycare. And I think, you know, families help each other out. And I certainly acknowledge that I'm lucky to be in a position where my parents were able to do that. Not all families have that privilege. And, you know, that's why I'm going to fight for affordable childcare and affordable housing for every family in this city.
Are you kidding me? All right, you're out there in America at Night. Is that relatable, particularly when, just like Mondami, this woman really didn't have a job until her late 30s that we know of? That's relatable, too. Is that relatable? And I get it. Look, we talked to Scott Jennings, and I see the problem here that Republicans have to face for the midterm. Two tracks. One, grocery store prices. All right? And they were asleep at the switch during the Virginia and Jersey election, and the White House and others didn't pay enough attention to it. But the bigger existential issue are younger people just feeling they can't get started, they can't get a home, they can't make it, et cetera, et cetera. So is she relatable? She got elected mayor in Seattle, as nuts as they are. Or are people saying, wait a minute, how in the world can you be mayor when you can't even run your own household and figure out a way to provide for your child and everything that's associated with it? Oh, no, that's relatable. She can't afford it. Mommy and daddy jumped in. And as I said, it's not just helping her because she's running for mayor now. She can't work, yada, yada. This has been going on with this woman. Think of Fetterman. Remember John Fetterman when he ran? Very similar thing. All right, Dom Giordano with you. Let's start with Paul, Boise, Idaho, who's streaming tonight. Paul, welcome to America at Night. Go right ahead.
Welcome. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think the legacy for Nancy Pelosi has been passed on. The batons have been passed. And this is only the beginning, the way I see it. But
let me challenge that, Paul. All we have really here, you know, here and there have been sporadically smaller cities of this. You have Seattle, which is far left, and you have New York, which is a perfect storm. Look at the people he ran against, how bad it was there. So I don't want to say this is across the country that they're taking over in this manner. And in the midterms, this is the thing I'm counting on for them to lose. So it's something we have to contend with, but they're not winning per se yet on this.
Okay, I'll go along with that. But it's got all the earmarks of that, unfortunately. And it's going to have to be door knockers. It's going to have to be radio ads. Has to be television ads. We can't lose this one coming up.
No, absolutely. No, this is existential. Thank you, Paul, very much. Yeah, I don't want to be Jeremiah here telling you it's the end of the world here, because both Seattle and New York City now are in the throes of this. This woman might have promised more even, though, than Mondami, if possible. I don't hear her saying defund the police. I haven't looked at her as closely as we've looked at the other guy. But you hear Burnett, oh, that's relatable. Is that relatable to you if you're going to be in charge and be the mayor? Oh, we got somebody that somebody had to pay something else for. I love it. That means they're going to do it for me. Really? But again, the big crises out there are when you have, and Charlie Kirk talked a lot about this, when you have median first home buyers at the age of 40, that's a problem. When you have nutbag ideas, I'm in the camp that says this is nutbag, and I think Trump has walked it back, 50-year mortgages. No, that's not where we're going to go. That's how desperate we are, throwing stuff like that out there. That's the area that's more problematic even than grocery store prices. Jason, Kensington, Maryland, WMAL. Hi, Jason.
Hey, g'day, mate. How you going? Yeah, this socialism stuff doesn't lived it in Australia, but I live in the DC area now. But this whole effort to get Trump out is a global effort. I'm from a small town in Australia, and their first news item in their local paper was about the Epstein files and Trump. And this is a small town in Australia, so this is a concerted effort with the left-wing media all over the world to get rid of him, not just here. And this socialism movement. They've got to be careful what they wish for, because we in Australia during the COVID lockdowns, and it was bad. It was really bad. They kept saying Australia was a role model for the world, but it wasn't. It was terrible. Had a lot of suicide.
Hey, let me ask you, Jason, because I see the Australians as rough and tumble and all that, yet you're right. There are restrictions on gun rights. There are restrictions on just living during COVID. Is the government representative of how Australians are? Why do they go along with stuff like that?
It's sort of, it's kind of, for me, I was kind of very disheartened by it, because I've lived over here for quite a while, and seeing what happened in Australia, right. I was pretty disgusted with the whole thing, especially COVID, because everybody just sort of lied down. I mean, they didn't lie down, there were protests, but of course it was met with force. I mean, people getting arrested and all that.
Thank you. Thanks, Jason. Thank you very much. Same thing with the Canadians. I mean, doesn't Canada, you see hockey, you see the wilderness Canada, doesn't it strike you as rough and tumble? They ought to be. Even the world of sports, the people that cover sports are covering something where you would think it's competitive, et cetera. But often, I'm not saying they're socialist, but often they're like Australia, like Canada in this. There's a disconnect. All righty. It's 833-482-5337 with Dom Giordano sitting in tonight on America at Night. And this woman now winning in Seattle is making an impact because it's the second major city. I don't know, is Seattle in the top 20? I guess it is. Is it 800,000 or so population? I guess it's in the top 20, maybe top 15. And New York, of course, the capital. Of seeing this play out and seeing similar playbook. And apparently, there's a contention here. Oh, no, that made her relatable, that somebody else is paying for her child care. We need that to be done for us. Look, I'm not saying it's easy today, given some of the headwinds that people face that are in their 30s. But that's not relatable to me. Is it relatable to you? That's what the contention is. It's, that's a negative. Yeah, Aaron, but it's not as bad as you think. Versus, no. I'm telling people that. I understand exactly what you're going through because I haven't worked and I can't get child care, etc. Couldn't we have somebody oppose her who maybe is not a billionaire or millionaire, middle class, but they earned it, they're working at it, they're struggling to, but they're paying their own child care? Wouldn't that be more relatable? Apparently, in Seattle, that's not as relatable. All righty, 833-482-5337. And you heard Scott Jennings on the Epstein thing. I think we differ a little bit. Look, they are out to get Trump with it, but there's nothing here so far that implicates him, nor do I think there will be anything else. But I would vote on Tuesday. Two great congressmen I had on, And Jeff Van Drew is one of the biggest allies of the president, and he has said, no, release this, let's put it out. You heard Jennings' argument. Well, there are people whose name is just mentioned, and they will be tarred and feathered because of that. Is that a big enough concern, or is the concern you're covering something up? Release it. Bill Clinton is going to be embarrassed even more by this. We don't know how much until we see everything. And the president directing Pam Bondi tonight to probe Bill Clinton's involvement in this. All right, coming to your calls next. Dom Giordano sitting in on America at Night.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
That is Dom with an M, D-O-M, Dom Giordano from Talk Radio 1210 in Philadelphia, sitting in tonight on America at Night. Same number, though, 833-482-5337. This is a little bit of a breakdown of the tariff rollback that President Trump issued tonight, which I support. I'm not a tariff guy. It's not creating wealth for the country or whatever. There's a reason why since the 1930s we've seen the folly of tariffs. But here's the directive, a little bit of a breakdown of what you're going to see at the grocery store, hopefully coming out of this. Cut one.
Breaking news from the White House tonight. President Trump saying he'll reduce tariffs on some imported foods, a way to lower grocery prices as he's faced pressure over the cost of living. Garrett Haig joins us now. And Garrett, this all happened in an executive order moments ago?
Yeah, Tom, that's right. This order exempts hundreds of products from the president's so-called reciprocal tariffs, a move aimed at lowering grocery prices. It impacts imported agricultural products, things like coffee, tea, bananas, other tropical fruits. The move comes as the White House has completed more trade deals, but also as President Trump has faced significant pressure to keep campaign promises to lower prices. Grocery prices overall are up slightly, around 1% since the president took office back in January, but ground beef is up 13%, orange juice up 17%. Beef and oranges are on the list of imports now exempted from the tariffs. The order also lists dozens of products for, quote, potential tariff adjustments, suggesting there could still be more changes to come. Tom?
All right, Garrett, thank you.
All right, so grocery store products, we saw this outrageously during the Biden years, but they're fickle. You know, some products are okay. They said 1% across the board. Others, coffee, people have been calling me about, they've jumped unbelievably, and people notice this stuff. So you can't just be out there strategically saying, well, look at how we've lowered, and we're going to lower, and they are doing a great job on this, on energy costs, gas, things of that nature. True. Mortgage rates down. They'll be down a lot more when we replace the head of the Fed with someone who's going to cut interest rates. People see the other stuff, too, and that was a core of what Trump said he would do. So now this is an all-out campaign to get on that. You can't tell people perceptually everything's okay, your wages are up. They're not going to hear that. And I'm hoping this indicates tonight the president is coming around to seeing that. Attacking Biden, fine. It was horrible. Bringing up the solid spots, fine. But you have to acknowledge this and have to show that you're working on it. And we have to get results as we go through the midterms. If we do, they'll win. If we don't, I don't think they're going to win. So tonight isn't because Trump loves the tariffing idea. He's gotten in his head that this is wealth producing. Why have we been so down on tariffs? I think we've learned from the 1930s. We learned what happens with this. And again, He's crafted some deals here that have given us leverage. That's all good. But people are looking at their own lot, and it starts with the grocery store stuff. With younger people, they're looking at housing, getting started, getting a family, doing all that. That's going to be more complicated. But I don't like the 50-year mortgage. A couple congressmen on my show have been talking about getting the major builders together. What are the regulations getting in the way? An emphasis, incentives on cheaper housing to get started and get into a house. All right, we're going to try to squeeze a call or two in. Here's how you get in, 833-482-5337.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
America at Night. Thrilled to be sitting in once again. Dom Giordano from Talk Radio 1210 in Philadelphia and taking your calls. Let's go to Steve in Atlanta, Georgia, WGKA. Hey, Steve, thanks for the week. Go right ahead.
Hey, Even. You mentioned earlier that we're talking about Seattle. You were talking about Seattle. We're talking about Chicago. We're talking about these liberal hives. Where you've seen the man on the street with like Jesse Waters and stuff like that. When they ask them questions about the Constitution, they ask them questions about the things that are going on in their own city.
Mm-hmm.
They're not aware of the answers to the questions. They're just uninformed. They just don't know. So I think they're not watching NBC, CBS. I mean, the true hardcore liberals are in those cities. They are. I bet they are. But they're teaching their kids, whatever they believe. Those hardcore liberals, they had kids, and they're teaching them that crap. But those people, those parents, they're watching CNBC, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, all those, CNN. They're watching those things, and they're teaching that crap to their kids. Their kids know nothing, and in fact, the parents know nothing. There's almost nothing that we can do about that, except thank God for the new age of social media, podcasts, all the kids, we're not getting our news.
No, wait a minute, though. There's one other thing, too. Whatever they're getting in school, and there's quite a movement going on, Steve, that's pushing back. I had Ryan Waters on, former superintendent in Oklahoma. They mandated what you have to say about socialism in the Oklahoma public schools. It's the curriculum. That's the way it's taught. You got to do that all over the place. That's a start.
Absolutely. And it's thank God that podcasts now are overtaking all of the legacy media. Right. And the kids are catching on to it. That's what they listen to now. And thank God it can only go in a positive direction, just like TPUSA and everything else going on.
Exactly. Thank you, Steve, for a good call. Yeah. Look, I'm hopeful on this that there's enough firepower, like talk radio, like America at Night out there, where Fox News, we're a player with this. But the schools are the battleground around things like socialism, capitalism, or the impact of it, whatever you want to call it. And again, too often they have the perception that this is a new idea, like in New York, tax the rich, go wild, do that. Don't call it socialism, just call it whatever you want. All right, we'll continue, though. Dom Giordano, follow me on Twitter at DomShow1210, sitting in on America at Night on Westwood One.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
All right, it's Dom Giordano pinch hitting tonight from Talk Radio 1210 in Philadelphia. Follow me on Twitter at DomShow1210. You get in at 833-482-5337. If you've heard me over the years filling in here on America at Night and Jim Bohannon Show, many years, you know that I am a Catholic. And I wanted to mention that in conjunction with what's going on tonight, where Catholic Tom Homan is taking on bluntly and fully one of the real forces out there that is helping to fuel illegal immigration. And it's hard to point fingers and say one of the reasons they're doing it is because of all the money that accrued to the Catholic Church by all the nonsense they were doing along the Texas border and the like. But it certainly appears to be that way. So the bishops holding their annual conference, and what is the existential thing on their mind? Illegal immigration, not life, abortion, which they purport to be the leading figures trying to prevent that. They voted 216 to 5 to condemn the inhumane treatment they say the Trump administration is administering to people that are here illegally or perceived to be here illegally. Pope Leo was one of the people egging on the bishops to take all of this up. I'm going to play you some of these said bishops who, in my mind, are incredibly suspect, to put it mildly, but 216 to 5. Now, I know one night in the past, and I'll just summarize it for you, I played the Bishop of Tucson. If you remember, one of the most controversial things in the first Trump years, around 2017, I'll say, was this separation of families at the border. Even though Obama did pretty much the same thing Trump was doing. It was a firestorm. And even saying this for Trump firestorms, this was big. So the Bishop of Tucson, right? He talks to the bishops, they were meeting in Baltimore again, that it might be time for excommunicado, meaning when you're excommunicadoed from the Catholic Church, you're out of the club. More importantly, it's a warning to you if you don't move off whatever the reason for your excommunication is, you are going to hell. Think about that. He wanted to excommunicate border guards that were Catholic, Border Patrol, helping protect us, helping protect the sovereign state of America. This clown wanted to excommunicado them. This is the way these guys think. But today, 216 to 5. Homan apparently is a Catholic. I don't know if they'll try to excommunicate him. Here's a little bit of a montage of the bishops. And it's all sorts of bishops jumping in to talk about how concerned they are about this. And also the idea that this just can't go on, that this is inhumane as a principle, as a matter of something they just can't abide. This new video condemning the Trump Vance, and Vance is important, you know why. Vance is a Catholic who's duked it out with these bishops before. Here's what they said.
As pastors, we, the bishops of the United States, are bound to our people by ties of communion and compassion in our Lord Jesus Christ. And we are disturbed when we see among our people a climate of fear and anxiety around questions of profiling and immigration enforcement.
We are saddened by the state of contemporary debate and the vilification of immigrants. We are concerned about the conditions in detention centers and the lack of access to pastoral care.
We lament that some immigrants in the United States have arbitrarily lost their legal status. We are troubled by threats against the sanctity of houses of worship and the special nature of hospitals and schools.
We are grieved when we meet parents who fear being detained when taking their children to school, or when we try to console family members who have already been separated from their loved ones.
Despite obstacles and prejudices, generations of immigrants have made enormous contributions to the well-being of our nation. We as Catholic bishops love our country and pray for its peace and prosperity.
For this very reason, we feel compelled now in this environment to raise our voices in defense of God-given human dignity.
Catholic teaching exhorts nations to recognize the fundamental dignity of all persons, including immigrants.
All right, so bishops, how about the walls around the Vatican? How about that, Pope Leo and others? How about the fact that you make these montages on this? Where were you when Biden, Pelosi, the Kennedys, any number of Catholics had it both ways? Extremists on abortion and then screaming they're devout Catholics. No, you provided cover for them. You enabled them. So where I am in Philadelphia, which is very Catholic or used to be, there's this just fierce tug of war with longtime Catholics and the leadership that is completely out of touch, completely in the tank. Is it financial part of this? Yeah, I think it is. And Tom Homan tonight is calling them out. We have now more than 2,000 Border Patrol agents working in 25 cities. I'll play you that in a little bit. But this notion of these 216 to 5, I'm trying to find out who the 5 were to commend them, that at least they didn't go off the deep end in this manner. I'm sure the Bishop of Tucson, if he's still there, can you imagine wanting to excommunicate hardworking Border Patrol agents protecting America? That guy wanted to. I told you my understanding of excommunicado is not only are you out, you can't receive communion, all that. They're telling you, buddy, if you don't change right now, you are going to hell. Think about that. Did they ever excommunicado and tell Joe Biden he's gone to hell by being an abortion extremist? No, they just looked the other way. So isn't it fair to say no longer are they the number one institution that protects life? That's the upside of what they used to be, you could argue. Their number one thing now is illegal immigration. That's what they're all over. That's what this conference is about. That's what this Pope is about. They've outed themselves. So are the 5 going to be excommunicated? Are they going to hell? Can I follow the judgment of those 5? Soon, I think they'll take up something like capital punishment. I'm in favor of capital punishment. I was in favor of it. I'm in favor of it now, and I always will be in favor of it. I don't care what they say. They are fraudulent. And they show it more every single day. And these are just the latest annex that they're involved in. I'd love to hear the 5 why they voted against this recommendation, this pronouncement from on high. When are they going to say something about the politics of abortion? Well, they have a private conscience and they do this publicly. That's ridiculous. But this is the issue where you go to hell. That's pretty severe. That's what they're about. 216 to 5. All right, phone lines are 833-482-5337. Does this have any power? Well, Democrats are citing this tonight, of course. How can we continue to do this? How can you as a Catholic, and I know that in presidential elections, usually around 26% was the number the last few times of people that vote are self-described Catholics. So you can see that the Catholic vote is still a big player, a real big political player. And using these guys as cover, that's tremendous. The Pope has gotten involved. He's jumped into the ring on this. And as I said, how many people is he taking into the Vatican with the walls, etc.? And how much of this is the money they were making at the gates to the country, all across Texas, etc.? And the average Catholic in places like New York with Dolan and all, they're up in arms. They're being inundated by this. And they don't like what Abbott did, busing people to places like New York, which was a brilliant move. But this is severe stuff. This is the major religion, arguably in America, numbers-wise still. Trying to tell people, no, you are completely out of line. Look at this voting pattern. Look at these numbers. If you don't toe the line here and say this is inhumane. And then all the stuff about immigrant. Well, we know all that. How about legal immigration? How about going down that path? All righty, 833-482-5337. Particularly if you're a Catholic, I'd love to hear from you. The pushback on this, you could say, well, come on, Dom, they don't matter here. That's not true. They are useful idiots in the big picture on illegal immigration. The media loves this stuff. Even though they're anti the Catholic religion, attack them every other day. Some of it, too, is they're still afraid because of the pre-scandal. They never stepped up to Obama. He had them scared to death. He would just say pre-scandal, pre-scandal, pre-scandal if they get out of line. They have devolved. And it's not just ideology. They move left. It's their own self-interest here of wanting people that are not going to challenge them. And most of these immigrants we're talking about, they are not going to challenge the priest, the bishop, the archbishop, or anything else. Other Catholics are. They don't like it. I mean, the secret's out. Why would we not challenge them? Who are they on this? When you're telling border agents they're going to go to hell for doing their job, when you're talking about that in front of hundreds of bishops and they're listening to this, as the Bishop of Tucson did, you're into another world. You're beyond disgrace. I'm going to believe that you have the power to be determining something like that, and you're going to tell these people they're going to hell under the power as a bishop, the teaching power, and Catholics should follow that? That is beyond belief. And what they issued here, this montage, it's a lot longer with a lot of different bishops, is aimed at people like Homan and others. All righty, grab a line, 833-482-5337. And Homan answered today saying, well, maybe they ought to be trying to fix the problems in the Catholic Church, which are vast, rather than telling him how to administer the laws of the United States. They claim they love the United States. Not so much. They don't like the immigration laws which are being forced, which are the law. So are they saying Catholics should resist what the law is here? All right, grab a line. Dom Giordano with you on America at Night.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
It's Dom Giordano sitting in for Rich. And as I said, even with Epstein, socialism, and all that today, this showdown, Tom Homan, Catholic, versus, 216 bishops out of 221, saying, buddy, inhumane, this is out of bounds, there's going to be big trouble for you, and on it goes. They are fraudulent, in my view. Doesn't matter if you're a Catholic or not. Given their lack of standing up based upon what they say is the core value, that the church is the big guy in the game to protect life, not so much. But boy, protect all that money and protect people that are here illegally. Yes, you're inhumane if you differ. Let's go to Laura in Bowie, Maryland, WMAL. Hi, Laura.
Hi, how are you, Dom?
Good, Laura.
This is the first time I've ever called in for anything.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it very much.
There are a couple of things. I've been waiting a teeny bit. So when
Yes.
I first was prompted to call, it was about the whole 50-year mortgage thing.
Yes.
And I just wanted to, the first time I heard it, I was just like absolutely horrified that, oh my God, you'll never own a house, right? But then when I stopped and thought about it, I realized that, oh, guess what? If you don't own a house, you're not only going to pay a mortgage, you're paying rent. And the rent is going to be increased and increased and increased in a very different way than a mortgage payment. And then if they also manage to implement the idea that you can carry your percentage rate over to the next purchase, it could make an incredibly huge thing for somebody. And so maybe not so horrible if it could actually get somebody into home ownership. There are so many things that do help you in the long run if you can own the house, in terms of being able to itemize and all kinds of stuff like that. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the fact I was listening to the gentleman talk about schools, and I was just remembering my daughter, who is now 50, being 15 years old, and trying to tell her that they were indoctrinating and brainwashing all the kids in school because they figured out that they couldn't beat us in a war or a Cold War. And so they just came into our country and used our freedoms against us to brainwash our children. And now she tells me, oh, Mom, you were so right.
Yeah. Well, and one of the biggest things, Laura, here with socialism is they believe it's a new idea. Because if they are told that it's not a new idea and there's history attached to it and they see it, it makes it a lot less attractive. So nice parenting by you, Laura. Thanks for that great first-time call. Appreciate it very much here. Yeah, the roots of this, or trying to get at some of this, and the media is not out there screaming, let's do socialism, but they just avoid what the repercussions are of what we're seeing. And as I said, maybe even more so, this woman in Seattle, I'm relatable. I'm not paying my child care. My parents are. I didn't have a job until I was in my late 30s. That's relatable to people. Wow. Now, it really is only in the bluest of areas, maybe some smaller ones. But the broader question, they're going to use the term affordability again and again and again. And Republicans, the president, are waking up to that to try to counter this rather than dismissing it. Dismissing it's ridiculous. Stop doing that. We have to win here. And I'm still in shock. I was quarterbacking my station's coverage during the Jersey-Virginia night, and I'm getting calls at 8:43 that Mikey Sherrill is the governor of Jersey. She ended up winning by 13 points. I thought the Republican might win or he'd lose by a point or so. We're still trying to figure that out. But affordability was one of the issues they seized on. Jump on board, particularly if you're a Catholic, though. Here on these bishops, do you support them? Dom Giordano sitting in on America at Night on Westwood One.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America. And you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
Absolutely. It's America at Night. That's what it's all about. Dom Giordano pinch hitting. This battle today, 216 to 5. this montage of all these bishops taking shots and taking shots at Tom Homan and other Catholics is exactly that they're involved. I hope they are drawn out more, that they don't hide behind their robes. And let's get it on with this Pope and others on this issue. They don't have a leg to stand on this. The average Catholic is putting up with them because they're lifelong Catholics. They're not following them in any real sense, by and large, with exceptions. I just would like to know who the five are. I'd like to get them on America at Night and salute them for standing up to this. And I didn't see their dissent, maybe I missed it, of written statement or otherwise that they put out versus this all-out attack on Trump supporters, Catholics who are enforcing the laws of the country. Let's go to Linda. Arlington, Virginia, WMAL. Hi, Linda.
Hi. I just wanted to mention that during the presidency of President Obama, Catholic Charities USA and the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, Migration and Refugee Services were the primary Catholic organizations that received U.S. government funds to settle immigrants and refugees. And these funds were part of the federal U.S. refugee admissions program.
Right. Yeah, and this takes away a lot of money, hundreds of millions of dollars, without a doubt.
$70 to $95 million.
Yeah. And again, they claim, well, they're not making any money on this, which is fairly hard to believe. Linda, what do you think the best response should be, since they are religious figures of the biggest religious group in the country?
Well, we have to strengthen our border. The fact that they're already here is largely the fault of the prior presidential administration.
Right.
And once they're inside the country, everyone has to eat. And if people don't eat, crime will go up. So until criminals are removed from our country, people are going to have to eat. They're going to need food and shelter.
Yep. Thank you, Linda. Thanks very much. In fact, J.D. Vance with Hannity last night, I don't know if I have that cut, but Vance making the point that one of the drivers of scarcity of housing are the what? Hard number to say. Let's put it on the low side, 10 million, high side, 20 million people let in here by the Biden administration. To Linda's point, they need shelter. They need housing. That drives some of this up. And one way or another, someone's paying for that, or God knows how they're paying for that. It makes housing more difficult. There's a scarcity here. But these guys, these bishops, are just arrogant beyond belief and masking themselves in their holiness, if you will, with this. So I wonder what they said or would say to the five who resisted this. And I'm looking, I have the statement of the bishops, but I'm looking for more of the five and what kind of statement they made on this about, and look, are there instances where there's an error with the Border Patrol? Yes. Is that the widespread policy, though, of what they're doing? And again, they don't take questions. They don't, there's no back and forth with them. If I were able to get them on, I'd ask them, give us the inhumane. They're saying it's inhumane to have this number of people here and to do anything about it. That's by definition inhumane. That seems to be where they're landing. And again, they do have a massive financial interest in this. I don't think it's wholly that. I think they think they're following the dictates of the Catholic Church and of Pope Leo, and that's why they're headed down this path. And essentially, if you don't follow it, you're in big trouble. This is the teaching moment. And this Pope was suspect out of the gate to me, even though he went to Villanova and Chicago and all that stuff. He has tipped his hand, particularly toward President Trump. They don't like J.D. Vance because Vance has argued with them on matters of faith and morals at a pretty high level. And this just cuts. Where is it that they were as focused with this kind of vote, 216 to 5, to do a montage condemning these phony progressive / liberal politicians like Joe Biden, who were massively, not just a little bit of choice here and there, but massively putting the pedal to the metal to win Democratic voters on the issue of abortion. And then Biden said he'll shove his rosary beads down the throats of Republicans. It's pretty nice, isn't it? When you can get the big thing on this side. Look at the ads in the last election cycle. How many were on abortion? Even though in Jersey it's in the Constitution, it's not going to be taken away. If you can get the rub of that, and then the rub, you're a devout Catholic, certified over here, you're a winner. Kennedy's played this for years. It's 833-482-5337. That's how you get on board. Let's go to Berta in Warrington, Virginia on WMAL. Hi, Berta. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. I want to say bravo to you that you expressed yourself the way you did about this issue of the Pope and the cardinals and the bishops and what have you. I have been seething for years over the church's position to be very, very accepting of Nancy Pelosi, Mr. Biden, and abortion. Nancy Pelosi forever said, oh, we're for the children. Well, right. I asked the question, what about the children that get aborted? Aren't they children?
Well, and Berta, I would tell you this. It gets down to this level. The Archbishop of San Francisco has pushed back on her, but it appears to me and other people that when he did that, he gets pushed back on by the Vatican. They don't want him to step up and challenge Nancy Pelosi.
And we both know why, because of
Yes.
course there's money coming in to the church. Now, the other thing, how come in this with these bishops? Did you hear the word illegal immigrants by any chance? No, it was we must be good to the immigrants. Well, of course we're good to the immigrants. My family and I, we are immigrants. We left our country. We are legal citizens, legal U.S. citizens. And we are, I think a country without borders cannot exist. So this is what Mr. Trump and Mr. Homan are fighting for. And then what about the people that were killed, that were murdered by these illegal aliens that are here? What about them? Don't we think about them? Doesn't the church, don't the bishops think about these people that were innocents, that were murdered?
I hear you, Berta. Thank you, Berta. Thank you very much. Look, particularly if you're a Catholic, and you heard Berta there, I think she's exactly right. It's stunning to see what they're up to here. When the obvious things, if they were consistent, if I could say yes, on the issue of life, they went after Biden, Pelosi, the Kennedys, they don't. They'll tell you something, well, their conscience. Yet they want to excommunicate border agents who are just doing their job. If they want to excommunicate someone who's a president, for example, okay, well, Biden should have been excommunicated many times. The Kennedys ought to be excommunicated on general principles, every one of them. Give me a break. And then there is, she's right, the money aspect of this, the cowardice of this. 216 to 5. And again, I've been trying for hours to try to find the 5. If you happen to see them, you can always send me an email. I'd love to get one of them on, or at least read what they said in relationship to this. You know, if this were a close vote and they said, look, this is a close call, we don't like what's going on here, can't there be a better way? But no, they're going down Broadway, calling you inhumane, and essentially telling you as a Catholic, they're speaking to you here, you better shape up on this. And the Pope is the one that has been edging him on publicly and privately. This is their annual or semi-annual big meeting. They always do it in Baltimore. And every time it happens, I witness the same thing. They're letting their own ideology, not matters of faith and morals here, drive this. Is this the issue they feel compelled to talk about? when they have the power, and sometimes they were a force for life. And I'm not talking about people, to Berta's point, that are vaguely pro-choice, pro-life. You know what I mean? They're not extremists. We're talking about extremism. Nancy Pelosi has said on national TV, Thomas Aquinas was for abortion. You may remember that. I used to play that. My God, Thomas Aquinas. Yes, and she absolutely believes it. All right. Try to get as many people as we can. 833-482-5337. That gets you to me, Dom Giordano, on America at Night.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
That's what Dom Giordano pinch hitting tonight. Follow me on Twitter at DomShow1210. And this is a big moment here. I'm going to try to get Tom Homan on the show next week. He's a Catholic, and he spoke about that and said his advice as a Catholic is, aren't there things you need to fix in the church first versus this all-out assault? And I'm stunned by the number. You know, you think there'd be reason, hey, maybe inhumane, is going a little bit too far. We don't like some things. Oh, no, 216-5, the Pope egging it on. They're asking for it politically here. And are people in the pews, where I am in Philadelphia, it used to be heavily Catholic, still people trying to maintain this, and they're assaulted. They're lifelong Catholics. These guys make it harder for them because they see Laken Riley. They see the abuses all over the place of what Biden did here. It's a sore point with them. They're not going to be lectured to by a bunch of guys who are suspect on things like the priest scandal. All right, Walter in St. Augustine, Florida is with us. Hey, Walter, welcome to the show. Hi.
Thank you, Mr. Giordano. I've just a quick comment and observation. The city of New York is now the complete opposite, mayor-wise and otherwise, than the iron-fisted friend of law and order and city of brotherly love, 1970s Mayor Frank Rizzo. And Dom, a police commissioner back then made mayor and fixed the city. Now a communist makes mayor, and he'll soon destroy a city. Your comment.
Yeah, well put. And in fact, on my show in Philadelphia today, Walter, this is the month when Frank Rizzo was confronted by a reporter after he was out of office and then running again, and made some of the most hilarious comments ever with the guy. It happened in 1980 during these today. So, yeah, Frank Rizzo, we still play a lot of in Philadelphia. People can't get enough of him.
Yeah, I saw that on YouTube also. And I loved him. I was stationed on the naval base at the end of Broad Street at the time.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I loved it. Yeah. I certainly appreciate you taking the call, sir.
Thank you very much, Walter. Have a nice night there. Listening on WFOY. Danny in Washington, D.C., WMAL. Hi, Danny.
Tom, thank you for taking my call. Good evening. I get a big kick out of these bishops that are telling people that you're going to be excommunicated from the church. And I laugh at that because how are they going to stop people from going to church anyway? How are they going to stop those people from getting communion? What are they going to do, ask them for an ID?
Well, I hear you, right. but realize they made mention of this when the guy said it. And you know what? I'm going to play that on Monday night when I'm back in, Danny. This Bishop of Tucson, what it's telling you, though, more importantly than what you just said, is you're going to hell at that moment when you're excommunicated. That's what it means.
But a bishop can't condemn you to hell. The only one that can condemn you to hell is the Lord himself. So they're basically blaspheming themselves. They're putting themselves ahead of the Lord. And when you want to talk about excommunicating Catholics, you want to talk about Biden. I mean, really? I mean, there's documented proof that the guy was abusing his own daughter.
Well, thank you, Danny. Thank you. Look, I'm not going to abusing his own. I don't know about documented proof on that, so I'm not going to go too far. There's enough with Biden there on the political part of abortion, and at the same time, devout Catholic. But I'll pull that, and this will be in the news through the weekend. Homan pushing back of what the bishop of he was in Tucson then said. He brings it up before the whole body and says, isn't it time now that for their soul of these just Border Patrol agents doing their job to protect America, we tell them the consequence of what could happen here. We may have to excommunicate them to make an example. And then he goes on to explain, excommunicate just doesn't mean, well, you can't go to church, you can't get communion. It means you're out. Eternal damnation. That's what they're talking about. It's a warning to you. If you continue in this line of thought and action, you are damned over being at the border during the so-called separation part of this. That's how extreme they are. 2:16 to 5. All right, final calls of the hour coming up. Dom sitting in on America at Night.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
America at Night. Dom Giordano sitting in. Let's go to Jerome in Charleston, South Carolina. Hey, Jerome, great town there. My wife and I just back from that. How it's laid out downtown. Remarkable work.
Yeah.
But what's on your mind today? Go right ahead.
Hey, I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. But when you interview Holman, could you ask him what happened to the $50,000 he got from the FBI?
Oh, okay, all right. Well, okay. Wait a minute though. I hear what you're saying on that about Holman. We're talking about this though. What do you think of what the bishops are telling us? Their take on this is.
Hey, the last party on earth that talks about religion ought to be the Republican Party. When was the last time you saw Trump in church? Huh? What religion is he? Nobody knows. He never goes to church, and the only time you see him with a Bible was when was that time in Washington when he's waving it around like he was trying to do something.
I'm talking about it. I'm a Catholic, Jerome, and I think the bishops are out of line. What do you say?
No, I think they're not out of line. I think they're standing up for humanity, something the Republican Party doesn't do a lot of, because all they do is demagogue people. You even demagoguing the bishops now. Come on, man.
We're not demagoguing. No. Everything I've said about them is factual, Jerome. I wish I had more time this hour, but thank you. I'm just flat out of time. Glad you got in Charleston, couldn't recommend it more. What a great town. Fort Sumter, a couple of other places we hit, and all laid out beautifully. Really, really nice. We're going to go back there. All right, Jerome, I'm glad you took shots at Homan and Trump, though. That's fine with me. But at the end of this, the bishops have a lot to answer for. And if I could find out one of these five and get them on, I think that would be really valuable. Dom Giordano sitting in on America at Night on Westwood 1.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Dom Giordano from Talk Radio 1210 in Philadelphia, sitting in tonight on America at Night. Follow me on Twitter at Dom, D-O-M, Dom Show 1210, Dom Show 1210. Last hour, let's see if we can do it together. I want to just wrap up everything this week. Got a number of things out there that I've been talking about all week that are still rising. One last statement here. I just happened to see this from the Washington Post, and it infuriates me even more about the bishops and this vote of 216 to 5 taking on the Trump administration and Homan, indiscriminate deportations. Let me just read you this one part. There's several things in here from the Washington Post that I think are important. The direct quote was, "We oppose the indiscriminate mass deportation of people. We pray for an end to dehumanizing rhetoric and violence, whether directed at immigrants or at law enforcement," read the message from the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. The vote was 216 to 5. And here's 3 abstentions. What kind of people? I don't think you should ever be able to abstain. If you don't want to vote, you ought to be out. What kind of moral judgment is this by the bishops that 3 of them abstained? After the vote of 216 to 5, the bishops stood and applauded. Really? This doesn't strike me as kind of a pep rally against Trump and everything else. The last such, what they call in quotes, special message was delivered 12 years ago. So this apparently is a big, big deal, is what I'm telling you. The last was 12 years ago at their conference. What kind of men abstain from a vote on this? How are you a bishop if you don't come down on one side or another on this? And I don't know. I'm searching here. I'm searching everywhere. I'm trying to go to their website. They don't give the names of the 5 that abstained, and we know who the others were by their name, 216 of them, or the 5 that voted against it. But I read you the new message listed the types of suffering the church leaders say people have experienced arbitrarily losing their legal status. Stop it. The White House spokesman said President Trump was elected president of the United States. Based on this promise, he's fulfilling it. Is there anything else in here? Yeah, the vote in the last election cycle. The bishop's moves come after months of escalation from the White House and division among U.S. Catholics. 55% of U.S. Catholics voted for him. Among Hispanic Catholics, who make up about 1/3 of all U.S. Catholics, 58% voted for Kamala Harris. Yeah, but that's still 42% that voted for Trump for a Republican. That is not bad at all. Let's see. Yeah, this the bishop in Chicago, one of the worst, Archbishop Blaise Cupich. He's the guy that wanted to have Dick Durbin, who is an abortion extremist, get the Catholic Lifetime Achievement Award since he's retiring. Caused a firestorm there. He's the one that wanted him to be as explicit as possible because of the assaults on human dignity. All right, a couple of other things, too. Let me give you the phone lines. 833-482-5337. That will get you to me, Dom Giordano, pinch hitting. I almost had for us tonight, because I was going to replay it. He was going to come on my show, maybe next week. That is the Secretary of the Treasury, who's an all-star, Bessent. He was coming to Philadelphia to strike the final penny at our U.S. Mint which is in downtown Philadelphia. Okay? And because of being called away, he couldn't do it. I am a fan of the penny. I'm not opposed. You know, I know the arguments, how much it costs to make the whole thing and all. But I thought I'd ask, the penny is a perfect example of something that, for any number of reasons, has grown obsolete. What's something else that you miss, that you maybe can't even understand? Why is that not in play anymore? Why did it become obsolete or semi-obsolete? You don't see it anymore, at much at all. And the penny caused a lot of stuff here because it was happening here in Philadelphia. One other quick thing, too. I'm a golfer, and I've been watching with interest, and I even talked about it on my show, pressure. Imagine the pressure Kai Trump was under. Now, she got the invite because her last name is Trump. She's a good golfer. She's going to play at the University of Miami, the daughter of Don Trump Jr. But she played in the women's Annika tournament in Florida the last couple of days. She didn't make the cut. First day shot 83. She was last by 4 shots. Today she came back with a 75. Tiger Woods dates her mom, who I guess is divorced for Don, or they're in the process of doing that. So, quite a story. And just the pressure. You understand if you play golf, it's hard enough. But to be 18, to be in the limelight like that is just fascinating to me, how much pressure it's under when your name is Trump and you're playing, the media covering it as if it were the Masters. All right, just a few things. Coming to your calls. And again, that statement from the bishops is almost hard to believe. And then they stood and applauded, and they wanted to make it stronger. How could 3 people abstain on this? Where's their moral clarity that they can't take a position and vote one side or another? Why are you even a bishop? Also, one last random thought. Sunday night in Philadelphia, the Eagles are as big as Real Madrid, as any soccer team. They're the biggest thing in the world. And they're growing, I don't know about nationally. But on Sunday night, they played the Detroit Lions, and we're going to see multiple, I would say, tush pushes. I've never had a chance filling in here to ask about. I'm a big fan of it because the NFL, the part that I don't like, and it is America's sport, it's the biggest thing out there, too much parity. In other words, the Eagles can execute and have come up with a play that is almost foolproof because of the quarterback, the offensive line, a lot of things. So the rest of the league, like babies, wants to ban it because the NFL, to me, is socialism. I don't know if you've ever heard me say that here. It's socialism in the sense they're all in it together. They have rules that try to make it so that each city believes they're in it rather than, hey, if you have a better team, you ought to be able to do what you want. I wouldn't have any salary caps, no draft, nothing. But the tush push has set them off because it's such an advantage and the other teams can't do it effectively and they can't contend with it. All right, let's start off with some callers. Let's go to Sandra in, I believe, Membrees, New Mexico on KNUW. Hey, Sandra, what's the name of your town?
Okay, I actually live in Hurley, New Mexico, but I was driven out by law enforcement over here.
Oh, okay. All right.
And so I'd like to go back home eventually at the end of August. But anyway, here's what I wanted to say. With regards to the Catholic Church and so forth, I mean, there's a lot of great Catholics. They're born again. And evidently Hitler died in good standing in the Catholic Church. I heard from a Catholic over here, because we have a lot of them in New Mexico, and she said in the 1940s, 1,000 communists infiltrated the Catholic Church, and I'm pretty sure at the hierarchy, okay? So some of the stuff we hear from the Catholic Church that a lot of the other Catholics are appalled at, and so are we need to hear from some evangelical leaders too, because we have our country's moving 50% toward communism right now. And then,
well, look, the problem with the evangelicals is there's not one central group coming together. They're various sects and all, but I would agree with you. I would love to see statements of them coming together on this. What's their take on it? Thank you, Sandra. And Hitler did not die in good standing with the Catholic Church. Come on now. That's not, things are bad enough. Yeah, Hitler, it wasn't so bad. Come on. Ridiculous. Come on, Sandra. All right, get in on any of these things. Got a couple more, but the penny this week just struck us here in Philadelphia as, and it's going to be interesting to see the consumer aspect of this. Many businesses, surprisingly, what they're doing is they're giving away gift cards and all that, double the value. Like you bring in 500 pennies or something, they're going to give you a gift card double the value. They want to stay in the penny business for now, which is smart, versus having to round it down to the nickel. So I wouldn't expect anytime soon you're going to see this move away from it. I get it. It's costly to make the penny. All right, penny for your thoughts. But something that's obsolete or becoming obsolete, that you kind of like it. You think there's still a place for it. The penny, not so much. It's going to be filtered out. Okay, it's 833-482-5337. Gets you to me. Dom Giordano sitting in on America at Night.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
America at Night, Dom Giordano, pinch hitting. By the way, earlier in the show, we had Scott Jennings on. Love Scott Jennings. And the two of us were talking about the Washington Post reporting right before the show tonight. The emails with Epstein indicate that he was text messaging while testifying about Michael Cohen. And the person the Democrat he was doing this with, was allegedly the representative from the Virgin Islands. I don't know if you've ever seen this woman. My goodness. I don't think we need a representative from the Virgin Islands here. She dominates negatively whenever she's on a congressional hearing, particularly if it's televised. But the allegation is through the emails that Epstein was leading her, and she was going with the questions he was suggesting while he was testifying. So, fairly, what's going to come out of the release of these documents, which is going to happen on Tuesday, I'm convinced, is a lot of dirt that's going to be negative for everybody. And the Trump administration ought to realize that, and the president ought to stop saying, well, the dumber Democrats are going to vote for it. I had two of them on my show yesterday that I really respect. One from Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania, McKenzie, and the other, Jeff Andrews, a big ally of the president. And they said they're going to vote. You have to vote to release the Epstein files here. Now, whether a judge will allow it, we'll go through all that when it happens, whether the Senate will find the votes to do that. But I think they ought to, so we can put this to bed. And anything more embarrassing than comes out of it, it comes out of it. One other item, too. And I didn't want to forget to tell you this. There was a big report this week, really tried to dig down as we head to the holiday season particularly, about porch pirates and what kind of damage they're inflicting. In New York, they said in the last year, the guesstimate, pretty good guesstimate, is the value of the packages that were stolen by so-called porch pirates was $950 million. Now, that's New York. Pretty bad, huh? Second place is where I was, in Philadelphia, $450 million. And in the middle of that breakdown, they said, well, in Philadelphia, some of it's probably due to the fact that Larry Krasner does not prosecute. I don't know if you've heard the name before, but he's one of the most infamous of these progressive DAs whose mission is not to prosecute, not follow the law, act as if they're defense attorneys. So here in Philadelphia, $450 million. The cops say we lock him up, he will not prosecute. They've ratcheted up in most states the penalties for so-called porch piracy. I don't have the complete list, but as we, head toward the holidays, I get the convenience of this. I get we're living in an Amazon world where stuff's going to be on the doorstep. But these numbers are stunning. Even for New York, it's almost $1 billion. Philadelphia, it's $500 million. Maybe where you are, something of that nature. And again, it's such an obvious thing despite the ratcheting up of penalties. All right, let's go to Debbie in Canton, Ohio, WNIR. Hi, Debbie.
Hi, how are you, Dom?
Good. Very good, Debbie.
I'll call you Dom. How about Dom Valdez?
That's fine.
Because I can't say your last name.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
That's funny because me and my granddaughter, I babysit her every day, and if any package arrives, she knows it right away, and we get it before any pirate can.
Yeah,
okay?
well, Canton, I don't know the numbers there. Can you imagine, though, $950 million in value?
That's sickening.
Yeah.
Sickening. But, like I said, she's on it. She sees, oh, here's somebody dropping off a package. It doesn't happen that often. But, here in Canton, we're kind of small town. It's,
Let me ask you, in Canton, is the Hall of Fame, I have not been to the Football Hall of Fame, is it a big deal in Canton?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, I would think so.
It sure is.
Yeah.
I haven't been there for years. I'd like to go back because they've redone it, and I'd like to go back again. I'd like to go back again.
Okay.
You tonight, Dom, was because of your comments on child care and the cost of child care.
Yes.
I remember way back when J.D. Vance was running, he said, oh, we all need to stand up. Grandparents need. Well, I'm doing that, okay?
Good for you.
I'm a retired. Yeah, good for me. And I love it. And it keeps me young. But on the other hand, when I was young and growing up and had children to take care of, I could afford child care, and I did well. And my children, I only have 2 children, but both of them rely on grandparents. That's uncalled for. It's not right because our retirements are, we don't get to do anything but watch our grandkids.
I thank you, Debbie. Debbie making a good point there that, this is another affordability dilemma. Dom Giordano sitting in on America at Night on Westwood 1.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Hey, it's with Dom, D-O-M, Dom Giordano sitting in for America at Night tonight. I'm going to play you the new mayor of Seattle on the child care issue. I hear the last caller from Canton, the difficulty with child care. By the way, I'm not sure if Bishop Strickland, several of you have sent it to me on Twitter and the like, was one of the 5. I thought he was out. I didn't even know he was allowed to vote or not. I think there was contention there. I think he got kicked out by Pope Leo at one point. If he wasn't, he would be one of the 5 that voted against what we're talking about here. Here's the new mayor of Seattle, though, who might be even further along than Mandami, even though she's more polite and civil. She's on with Aaron Burnett on CNN, and she's talking about childcare and what's come to life, that her parents have been paying for the child care of her child. She and her husband can't afford it, and they're going back and forth saying, well, that makes her more relatable. That's why they want her in Seattle, because they can't or won't pay for child care also. Here's the new mayor.
I want to ask you one other thing, because you sit here as a mayor-elect. You're in your early 40s. You've accomplished so much at such a young age. And in that context, you have been open about the fact that you have done that with your parents' help, that your parents who live across the country have sent you checks to help pay for your toddler's childcare, right? That with all the things that you've accomplished, when it comes to affordability, that you still needed that. Now, Fox News and the New York Post have framed that in a negative light. They have said, Mayor-elect, that you are, quote unquote, living off your parents' money. I'm curious how you see it, because this is something you've been very open about. Do you think that people in Seattle see this as a negative or as a positive that people can relate to?
Well, I'll say that my opponent's campaign and the corporate PAC that tried to stop my election certainly cast it as a negative thing. But, you know, campaigning for office is stressful. Seattle's one of the most expensive cities in the country. Our childcare is off the charts expensive. And honestly, I think that a lot of people of my generation and younger and older found it very relatable that during this stressful campaign, you know, my parents chipped in to help to pay for the cost of their granddaughter's daycare. And I think, you know, families help each other out. And I certainly acknowledge that I'm lucky to be in a position where my parents were able to do that. Not all families have that privilege. And, you know, that's why I'm going to fight for affordable childcare and affordable housing for every family in this city.
But the context of this is she apparently didn't have a real job until she was in her late 30s. And there was a cut of her with her mom filling out a job application. She didn't seem to understand much of it. So it's not just, oh, they helped out. Doesn't everybody help out chipping in here and there? Does that make her more relatable? Well, she can understand because the parents had to jump in for the child care part of this for the new mayor. That's the argument. Or do you go, no, honey, you're not getting away with this. Come on now. All right, let's go to Doug here in Denton, Texas, KLIF. Hey, Doug. Let's go to Sue in Warrington, Virginia, WMAL. Hi, Sue.
Oh, hi. Okay. Well, about these bishops. So I am so offended. I am personally offended. First of all, how dare they threaten Tom Homan? How dare they? There's 216 of these guys. Well, there's 300 million citizens, and we're not all Catholic, you know? Mm-hmm. And they're issuing a mandate that affects all of us. It's not American. It's not fair. Who are they? The International Court or something?
Well, and you know what? John Kennedy had to address this when he was running for president, when he followed the dictates of the Vatican and all. It was biased against him. But you kind of got into something there. So Tom Homan has to follow the political agenda of these bishops when he's enforcing the law. Americans, you're right, they're not going to like that.
Absolutely not. Now, I understand there's this nuance about the secular and spiritual obligations and all of that. So given that nuance, I don't think these 216 are very smart. They're not being sensitive to the nuances of the secular and spiritual. They're being antagonistic. They're being heavy-handed. And I just say I am personally offended.
And so, you know what? To your point, even the Washington Post reports it. Maybe rather than standing and applauding themselves, maybe they would have said, "Let us lead in prayer around this." That might have been more fitting for a vote versus like a football game. They're standing and applauding.
Yeah, they could have. Yes, I suppose. But you know that I guess they played their hand. I mean, I guess now we know their true colors.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sue. Thanks very much. I don't know about Bishop Strickland here as the guy. This child care thing and socialism, though, you can see as we head toward the midterms The battle is going to be over affordability. I broke it down at the top of the show saying it this way. With people that are, past the age of 40, let's say, just to pick a number, they're looking more at things like grocery store prices they're seeing. With people that are under that, let's make it 45 and then under 45, they're looking at starting a family, trying to get that first home desperately, and or childcare. And when childcare comes up, I remember way back when in 2016, Ivanka Trump and President Trump, they were proposing stuff, even for people of means, about covering taxpayers, essentially, subsidizing or covering child care costs for people. And my people in Philadelphia were in revolt over that. They came to Delaware County outside Philadelphia, I remember, Ivanka Trump, and they had this scheme that was laid out. We're going to cover this type of stuff. It's the only, and I'm talking family income well into the $150,000, stuff like that. We still need to cover them. People are saying, hey, if you have kids, then it's your duty to figure out how you're going to support them. This mayor is saying in Seattle, this made her more relatable, that child care costs have skyrocketed. All right, the way to deal with this is to look at why, what essentially is driving this. By the way, while I'm on it, this mayor too, and I don't have the cut, but I'll summarize it for you. Also, just like Mandami said, she believes, how could Americans not think that government is capable of solving our biggest problems? Notice the worship of the government. Imagine our biggest problems, whatever you determine them to be, and we're going to rely on government. Imagine this woman in a debate with Ronald Reagan saying, those immortal words, those deadly words, "Hi, I'm from the government. I'm here to help." Yeah. What universe are they in where they want to pontificate? They believe government is about solving even our biggest problems. Well, the solution is to get out of our way and let America do that. You know that, and I know that. When has government been the vehicle to solve or to generate the biggest benefits to America? It's the private sector, it's individual Americans, and government mainly getting out of the way. That is the essence of doing that. But Mandami says the same thing that she just said. She goes a step further. I haven't heard Mandami quite say this. Not only does she want government-run supermarkets, you can imagine, but the supermarket chains that are there, she says they're not going to allow you to close. Yeah, you're not going to be able to pull up stakes and get out of Seattle. You made your money there. You're not getting out. What's she going to do? Chain them to the supermarket? But Mandami, at this point in time, you know the story by now. Trust fund baby, Nepo baby. I read today the net value is in the tens of millions of the parents. He went to a school that was $60,000 a year tuition in high school. And yet he wants to get rid of the gifted and talented programs in New York schools. He's going to do it. And that has started a revolt of even liberal parents who were trying to hang in with a public school because they like the programs. So this is going to be a disaster. I find the woman in Seattle to be even more intriguing. I know he's celebrated around the world right now. It is New York. But watch for what goes on in Seattle in her own personal story. Suddenly, the inability to provide for the child makes this couple more relatable. Well, wait a minute. How did they get to this point? What did the two of them do for a living? And with her, she's just mainly been an activist, unpaid. That's how she's gotten this stature. Well, if you want to be an activist, why should somebody else have to pay for your child care? Because the parents are not going to do that forever. All righty, 833-482-5337. Get in on America at Night.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
You can do that now and get in with Dom Giordano, pinch hitting tonight on America at Night. By the way, I mentioned earlier, quite a struggle going on. Marjorie Taylor Greene and President Trump around the Epstein matter. And apparently, I'm looking right at it. Marjorie Taylor Greene posted the text message she sent and the response, not from President Trump, from this Natalie Harp, who has become a bit infamous of the stuff that she throws to the president. That's executive assistant to the president. And she urged him to open up the whole file and to go after Bill Clinton. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is on the side of the angels on this. President Trump has not responded well, calling her wacky, among other things, saying he's off Marjorie Taylor Greene and there might be a primary coming. I'm telling you, on Tuesday, a number of Republicans are going to vote to open up the Epstein file. Now, whether or not a judge and all that goes into it, it's going to be a moment. And I think they're correct. And I think President Trump, after this is all over, will be fine. But the reluctance to get to the bottom of this is telling when you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene going back and forth and posting the text message here. And Marjorie Taylor Greene and Natalie Harp, oh, my goodness, that is not going to be good for anybody. Let's go to Ray in Atlanta, Georgia, WGKA. Hey, Ray, go right ahead. Hi.
Oh, good evening. Listen, I enjoy the show, and I'm going to keep listening to it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, beyond that, I'm just tuning out. I hope these politicians eat each other. The journalists, I hope they eat each other. I'm tired of their crap. Do you remember, it's so toxic. I can't take it anymore. Do you remember this song by Don Henley, probably from the 80s? Let's see, what was it? Dirty Laundry. Do you remember that?
I do remember it vaguely, yes.
Okay, I was just listening to that and just have to come on, turn the radio on and listen to you guys. I don't even want to listen to Coast to Coast anymore. That's just turned into a sales platform.
All right, well, thank you, Ray. Take that up on other shows. We don't do that here. But, look, I hear your point here. This is coming to a head. And Marjorie Taylor Greene saying go after Bill Clinton from this too. They're doing that. Pam Bondi's charged with doing that. But opening up the whole file, nothing has happened here with Trump going through this that is implicating him in anything at all. Now, you could argue, well, why did he not report his suspicion about Epstein and these young women rather than just having a feud with him or bouncing him for Mar-a-Lago? Okay, you can argue that. But other than that, what has come out here that is weak in Trump around this? So I'm telling you, on Tuesday, the vote is going to get maybe 20 Republicans or more that will say, yeah, release the file. Let's not go through committees. Democrats are just selectively doing this, etc. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, strangely here, is making a good bit of sense, I think. I think she's still supportive of Trump, but she's trying to egg him on toward the right way of getting through this whole thing. All righty, 833-482-5337. In the end, they're not going to primary her. Apparently, she wants to run for the Senate, maybe. They don't want her to in Georgia, don't think that's the best candidate to carry the state. That may be some of the backstory. But I'm telling you, I'll follow up on this and try to find some of these bishops that voted against this nonsense, the arrogance of it, and the way they celebrated it, and just the posture, given how deficient they've been. I told you that at 12 years, the last time they've done a special thing like this, the words they use. Why didn't they do anything like this during the Biden years over the issue of abortion and Biden? That's not inhumane. How did they bypass that? Their ideology allows them to bypass it. They can come up with subterfuges versus directly going at it. If they did that, then they went after Trump. I'd say at least they're consistent. All right, final calls of the night coming up. 833-482-5337.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
It's America at Night with Dom Giordano pinch hitting. Let's get one more caller in. Let's go to Jeff, Nevada City, California, KNCO. Jeff, go right ahead. Okay. How about Jess, Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri? Hey, Jess, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Second time caller, second time through.
Well, thank you very much.
I got to say that after I talked to your screener and told him what I was calling about, you brought up the story about the bishops. And this is something that I had not heard about.
Okay.
But you can bet your life by Sunday afternoon, I will have an opinion on that.
Okay,
and
good for
here
you.
was my original point.
Yes.
Was that when it comes to news, you've got to look at both sides. Look far right, look far left. Read the articles, watch it on TV, listen to the radio, and start to narrow it down. Somewhere, someplace, it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. Something that you know to be true and factual.
Well, Jeff, I applaud you. That's absolutely right. Consume that and then come to a good decision. Thank you, Jeff, very much. I would hope that you come to the decision of some of the stuff we're putting out, but if you don't, you call in on the other side, that's fine. And, you know, to Jeff's point, we now have, you don't have to search quite as hard as when I first started doing talk radio to find the other side. It's apparent, it's prominent, which is a good thing. Hey, I want to thank Rich Good producing tonight, executive producer Alex Hinton. Behind the scenes, they make this show roll. They get us going. They make everything seamless for a host sitting in. And I'll be with you next week on Monday. We'll have a lot more to say about all the stuff that's happened here over the weekend. But the Epstein thing on Tuesday is going to get a vote to discharge it, to say that it's time to move on with this and release the entire file. There is no doubt about that. My name is Dom, D-O-M, Giordano. Follow on Twitter at DomShow1210. Sitting in on America at Night on Westwood 1.